Hello, I'm Andy Agafangelo. I'm very proud to be the founder of campaign group Transparency Task Force. As the name suggests, we believe in transparency. Much of our thinking is rooted in the idea that if people are doing bad things, they're less likely to be willing to do it if it's out in the open. One way of describing our ethos is to refer to the phrase first used by the US Senator Justice Louis Brandeis in his 1914 book about bankers and how they use other people's money. It was Justice Louis Brandeis who first used the phrase sunlight is the best disinfectant. What is there to disinfect? Well, the harsh reality is that the financial industry has a predisposition to misbehave. All the evidence shows that if the financial sector can get away with stuff, it will. And of course, it's malpractice, malfeasance, misconduct, mis-selling, and sometimes even outright fraud ranges from small, incidental, trivial things all the way through to serious wrongdoing, all the way through to causing global financial crises. And when financial crises happen, they don't just hit the pocket, they hit lifestyles. In the global financial crisis of 2007-8, we understand, according to research by Oxford University, that over 10,000 people across the UK, mainland Europe, Canada, and the US actually took their own lives because they lost their jobs because of the recession caused by the banking malpractice. When they lost their jobs, they often lost their homes. That often led to family breakups, etc., etc., and people quite literally lost the will to live. So we're talking about a subject, the behavior of the financial sector, that is a non-trivial matter. This is important stuff. And one of the characteristics, of course, is that it is an industry that is very recidivist. I'll be showing you some data in just a second to prove that point. Many of you will know that we are very close to and very involved with Good Jobs First, which is the Washington, D.C. based NGO that produces a database called Violation Tracker UK. There was a violation tracker for just the US. We got involved, and as a result, there's now a violation tracker for the UK as well. And I'm going to share my screen to show you some data from that, which really does emphasize the importance of what we're talking about tonight. So here's Violation Tracker. I'll put this in the chat in just a short while. One of the searches we can do is to look for a list of the parent industries ranked by how much they've been fined. So here we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Since the year 2010, that's when this database goes back to, since the year 2010, the financial sector has been fined more than any other industry. Not only is it the most offending industry, it's the most offending industry by a long, long way. £6.2 billion in fines since the year 2010. Aerospace and military contracting is second with only, inverted commas, 1.6 billion. So financial sector is predisposed to behave badly. And when we click on the phrase financial services, we go to the next level of detail. What does it show us? It shows us the worst offending organizations, the top 10. The top 10 on the naughty list, headed up by UBS and NatWest and Barclays and Lloyds. The rest, as you can see. And we then get to some remarkably powerful data. This is the list of the fines ranked by the biggest first. Credit Suisse has the honor, so to speak, of having been fined 292 and a bit million in 2021 for banking violations. And Barclays, foreign exchange market manipulation. Glencore, NatWest, UBS, you can see the rest of it. And when I say the rest of it, I do mean the rest of it. There's a lot in the rest of it. This is a very, very, very long list of malpractice. And how does that connect to tonight's conversation? Well, let me explain exactly how it does. Most of these organizations you're looking at are big, powerful institutions with enormous resources. Some of them, of course, including and especially the banks, can quite literally throw whatever money they want at a legal case. So it's not necessarily the case that you win in the courts if you're in the right. Perhaps it's more accurate to say you win in the courts if you're right and you've got big enough pockets to fight your case. So we're talking about battles here, ladies and gentlemen, battles between Davids and Goliaths. And it's been that way for a long time. It's been that way for a very long time. It's been that way for too long. But over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months or so, we've been gradually hearing about how some folk have been using AI to help them in those disputes. And in all honesty, virtually a day does not go by when I don't have a conversation with somebody about how they are finding ways to help get AI to help them. And over the last few months, we made the simple decision. Those who know a bit about AI should know more about it. Those who know nothing about it should know a bit. And what can we do to share best practice amongst ourselves so that people who've got a legitimate fight with an institution can actually use AI to multiply their effort? Mark Bannister said to us the other day, he said, AI multiplies effort and is a truth seeker. I personally have been making great use of it in recent weeks. And every time I put a request into ChatGPT to ask it to do something for me, I'm typically blown away with how good it does what it does and how quickly it does what it does. It's phenomenal stuff. Of course, we're also learning its limitations. We're learning about the importance of checking its work, not assuming that it's factually correct, etc., etc., etc. But we'd like to think that the asymmetry of power imbalance between the David and the Goliath is evened up a little bit, maybe even a lot, maybe even completely, as a direct consequence of this phenomenal new technology that's available to all of us through a keyboard. This truly is an incredibly important topic because there are people in our community who are telling me, that AI has the power to completely redraw the picture, redefine the landscape, rearrange all the dots, do all kinds of things that's going to make a huge, huge difference. Our first speaker tonight is Ken Joyce. Ken's got a lot of relevant experience in this. He's also a very, very successful entrepreneur. Do please take a look at Ken's background. We're going to be hearing from somebody who's been successful, is successful, and has decided to spend more and more of his time focusing on his ways of harnessing the power of AI. We'll be hearing from Ken. We'll also be hearing from Steve Conley. Steve Conley, some of you already know, he's been working so supportively and frankly so brilliantly with Transparency Task Force in the last few months. Steve's going to be talking about SAFE, support after financial exploitation. What a brilliant idea. Steve's doing some phenomenal work to fill the void. People who've been harmed by the financial system and are desperately looking for support. Steve, do please tell us about SAFE, support after financial exploitation. And in particular, please do tell us how you and your colleagues are using AI in the fight against the baddies. We're also going to be hearing from Paul Bates. Paul's unusual. He's a barrister, nothing unusual in that, but he's a barrister who's qualified both in Canada and in the UK. Paul's a great supporter of Transparency Task Force. He doesn't mind it when we ask him to give us an opinion about this or an opinion about that, or what do you think about this and what do you think about that? It's great to have a wonderful legal mind available to our community. So before they get stuck in, thank you to Ken, thank you to Steve, thank you to Paul for setting aside time to be with us tonight and to participate fully in this conversation. But we won't just be hearing from Ken, Steve, and Paul. We'll be hearing from others who want to chip into this conversation too, because we're all on different points of the learning curve as far as AI is concerned. Some of us are at the very, very beginning of that. There may be people here tonight who've never put a request into ChatGPT or any other AI platform. There are others here tonight who are doing stupendously brilliant work with it. Let's all learn from each other. So thank you all for being here. Can we first of all pass the mic, so to speak, to Ken, who's going to introduce him and share with us all his thoughts on AI. Ken, thank you very much indeed. Can we show our appreciation to Ken, please, folks? Thank you very, very, very much. It's taking a bow. Cheers, Ken. Please introduce yourself. You're a newcomer to this community, so please do take time, Ken, to tell everybody a bit about yourself and your background. First of all, thanks, Ken. Thank you.
I'm deeply honored. Thank you very much for the invitation, Andy. I guess I've worked for 30 years or so in advocacy and charity work of various different kinds. I established the Ireland Fund of China, worked with them, worked with UNICEF in conjunction with my day job at the time, which was running a little marketing company with clients like Deutsche Bank and Aon Insurance and Citigroup and a lot of our friends here today. So I have some understanding of the financial services industry, but my reason for really pushing AI as an advocate to those who are in legal battles with institutions, etc., which are much bigger and with deeper pockets than they are, stems from an experience I had whereby everything that I owned and loved was taken from me by the legal system here in Ireland, and I probably foolishly took it to task and went into battle with it and made myself singularly unpopular, I have to say. But the result 10 years later is that we now have a family law court system in Ireland, which didn't exist before physically. We have, for the very first time, judges who must be trained in how to deal with the complexities of family law. And we have a requirement that expert witnesses can't be arbitrarily chosen by one side or the other and relied upon by the judge. They must be people who are qualified and seen to be so. But specifically, I found AI to be extremely useful to me. I'm not, as you can possibly tell, a lawyer, nor can I speak lawyer talk. I'm an emotional kind of guy, I suppose. I'm more creative in my bent, but I do care about the world, and I think that if when I die I've done something which makes it a little bit better, then it's been a good journey. So that's my ultimate raison d'etre. Specific to AI in legal work, I started about 9 months ago using my AI business to help me with various different legal applications I had to make to court, getting opinions, researching all of the case histories, etc. And I found it to be extraordinarily helpful. However, as you pointed out earlier, Andy, it also is prone to errors and mistakes. And I ended up with developing an agent which now can successfully trawl the various different AI engines for me and find, number one, the best QC senior counsel opinion on a case from hard copy documents I can scan in and show it. I don't even have to have digital copies in text form anymore. And I can input pictures, I can input affidavits, notices of motion, etc., and it will put them all together for me and provide me with the documents I need to take into court. So that's something that I think would be beneficial to many, many other people out there. So as you do nowadays, I asked AI, I said, this is really what I want to tell these people about. This is what I think. What's the quickest way to say this in about 7 minutes, which I presume is what I have about left. And it's come back with my pre-written speech, which says, I want to share something that might sound like science fiction, but it's happening right now amongst people just like you. I want to talk about how artificial intelligence has become an unexpected ally for ordinary citizens fighting extraordinary battles against financial fraud, corporate malfeasance, and systemic injustice. And you mentioned the David and Goliath reality. let's be honest about what we're up against here. When you've been scammed, missold a financial product, or become a victim of corporate fraud, you're not just fighting for your money back, you're fighting against teams of lawyers, regulatory bureaucracies, and corporate structures designed to wear you down, confuse you, and ultimately make you give up. I mentioned that I did some work in the insurance company at one stage, and one of the CEO globally told me that they make more money out of people not following through with cases by employing what they call internally the nuisance factor than anything else. And the nuisance factor, you alluded to it earlier, Andy, it basically depends on, oh, sorry, we lost that file. Oh, could you send us that again? Et cetera, et cetera. So the traditional advice has always been get a lawyer, but what happens when you can't afford one? What happens when the amount you've lost doesn't justify the legal costs? What happens when you're facing form letters, legal jargon that you don't understand, and procedural mazes specifically designed to discourage you from pursuing your rightful claim? This is where something remarkable has begun to happen amongst the people that we help here. Some of our members have discovered that AI tools can level the playing field in ways we never imagined. They're not replacing human judgment or legal advice, but they're providing something equally valuable, which is intelligent assistance in understanding complex documents. They can help craft compelling correspondence, and navigating bureaucratic systems can be assisted too, because that can be a bit of a nightmare. So let me paint you a picture of how it worked in a couple of cases that we were involved in. There's a girl called Sarah. She was stitched up for 15,000 in a pension transfer scam. Traditional legal solicitor would have cost her more than the 15,000 she lost, so it just wasn't viable. But with AI assistance, she was able to analyze the complex regulatory framework, identify exactly which rules were violated, and draft detailed complaints to the financial ombudsman that actually resulted in full compensation. Another fellow, David, no relation to Goliath, had a small business. He was nearly destroyed by what can only be described as a predatory lending arrangement. Again, using AI to help him understand the Consumer Credit Act and draft correspondence to regulators, he not only got his case resolved, but helped expose practices that were harming other businesses in the area. What makes AI so powerful in these situations, I suppose there's three capabilities that directly address our biggest challenges. First, AI democratizes legal understanding. So complex regulations, case law, and statutory frameworks that would take lawyers hours to research and explain can be broken down into plain English explanations. You can upload a contract, a regulatory document, or a court judgment, as I mentioned earlier, I've done. And AI can help you identify the key issues, potential violations, and relevant precedents, and give you the case histories, etc., that you can then cite. Second, AI eliminates the intimidation factor of formal correspondence. Lawyers are very experienced in I'm sure we've all seen the difference in, the first email you get from a lawyer is dear Ken, the next one is dear Mr. Joyce, the next one is dear sir, and then it goes downhill from there, and that's not an accident either. So many of us have stared at a blank page trying to write a complaint to a regulator or challenge a corporation, feeling overwhelmed by the need to sound professional and authoritative. But AI can help you structure your arguments, ensure you're citing the right regulations, and maintain the appropriate tone while telling your story powerfully. One of my great failings is that I tend to get emotionally, and wait till I tell you about this, and then they did that, and the judges don't want to hear about it. They just want to know the facts and whatever. So AI can take all the emotion out and really help you present a case which is much more palatable to a judge. Thirdly, AI provides consistency and persistence. Corporations and bureaucracies count on wearing you down through delay, complexity, and repetitive process. I mentioned the insurance industry earlier. It's not the only one. AI doesn't get tired, doesn't get discouraged, and can help you maintain detailed records and follow up systematically on every avenue available to you. And this uh, is where I found the agentic AI particularly helpful. So the applications we're seeing with clients fall, I suppose, into several key areas: document analysis and contract review, uh, regulatory complaint drafting. In Ireland, we have the Oireachtas here, the Parliament over there in the UK, and political engagement, evidence organization, and case building. AI excels at helping you organize timelines, identify patterns across multiple cases, and build coherent narratives from complex situations. I need to also talk about the limits and the ethics. It must be clear that AI cannot um, it cannot replace a lawyer, but it can help you think systematically about your options. AI can help you map out all the available avenues, from ombudsman services to regulatory complaints to parliamentary engagement, ensuring you don't miss opportunities for resolution. It can provide legal advice in the formal sense. It can replace the judgment. It cannot replace the judgment of qualified professionals when you truly need them, and it cannot guarantee outcomes. But what it can do is give you the tools to fight more effectively, understand your situation more clearly, and present your case more professionally. It's not about replacing human expertise, as you said earlier again, Andy. It's about augmenting your own capabilities when human expertise of a professional nature is out of reach. So ultimately, I guess what we're talking about is a potential community of empowered advocates for the first time as a result of AI. So this is what excites me most about this whole development, is not just the individual success stories. I cited a couple earlier. It's the potential for creating a community of more effective advocates when citizens can engage more professionally with institutions, when they can understand and use the systems designed to protect them. The balance of power begins to shift. We're not just talking about getting individual cases resolved, though that is vital. We're talking about making corporate malfeasance more expensive and risky. We're talking about making regulatory systems more responsive. We're talking about making it harder for scammers and fraudsters to operate with impunity. I want to leave you with this thought: that tools exist today to fight more effectively for your rights, your money, and your dignity. Systems that have been designed to discourage and exhaust individual complainants can be navigated more successfully than ever before. This isn't about technology replacing human judgment or professional expertise. It's about technology empowering human determination and giving you the support you need to persist in fights that matter. Your story matters. Your case matters. And now you have new tools to tell that story and make that case more effectively than ever before. The companies that have wronged you, the systems that have failed you, the bureaucracies that have ignored you, they're not prepared for a generation of citizens who can research like lawyers, write like professionals, and persist like machines. It's time to show them what empowered advocacy looks like.
Wow. That was great.
Thank you, Andy. Hope it's of some help to somebody there.
I'm certainly it will be. I'm certain it will be. We'll go to Q&A, and after that, we'll thank you properly for spending the time with us and going through those points. And it's brilliant. I hadn't thought of this. It's brilliant that you used AI to help you write the speech that you just delivered. I thought that was absolutely.
It would have been hypocritical to espouse the virtues of AI and not employ it in that respect.
I mean, it's so powerful. Anybody could now go and deliver any speech on any subject and come across in a pretty competent way just through AI. I mean, it's scary. I keep wondering what it's going to do to the job market in years to come. But anyway, that's another dimension to this. we're going to have so many people wanting to chip into this conversation, I'm sure. Who'd like to raise their hand and get the ball rolling with any comments or questions? Well, whilst you're gearing up to do that, folks, Ken, you talked about an agent, an agent that it sounded like you would get this agent to talk to the different AIs. Tell us more about that. I didn't really understand it, but it sounds like a brilliant idea.
So, do we know this guy here, the Godfather? Okay, well, Geoffrey Hinton was he's called the Godfather of AI. He was recently given a Nobel Prize in physics, a subject that he doesn't teach, has never taught, doesn't pretend to understand, but that was the only way they could give him a Nobel Prize, and they really wanted to, because he effectively invented artificial intelligence, for want of a better person to hang it on. He fears that the greatest existential threat that we face is through agents on using AI, and agents are agentic AI is basically where you create a virtual person and you give them instructions and you say, I don't have time to do the following, but I need to get it done. Now you go and do this. That's agentic AI. So you might have one agent that is tasked with the job of, I need to get new car insurance in 2 weeks' time. Go out there, look around. Here's my car. This is its qualifications. This is who I'm currently with. This is what I'm paying. Find me a better deal and let me know what the best one is. And it will go and trawl around and contact various different companies on your behalf and say, hi, I'm an agent on behalf of Ken Joyce, and I'm looking for an insurance quote on car XYZ. My no claims bonus is 60%. I'm currently with this company. What's the best price that you could give me? I'll be in a position to move on this in a couple of weeks' time. And then it will contact maybe 30 or 40 people with exactly the same thing, but it can also phone them and speak to them in person.
No.
Yeah. So these agents are quite powerful things, as you can imagine, and we will ultimately, as individuals, have fleets of these at our disposal. They haven't as yet manufactured agentic AIs, which are out of the box, but they will be soon enough. So we wrote our own ones. I mean, it's essentially like a computer program, I suppose, an algorithm. You say, I want an agent that will do the following. We found a huge number of problems with using AI, particularly for legal work. Specifically, it repeatedly gives wrong answers. There's a famous case I know where somebody used AI in a New York courtroom, and they quoted a case history which, when researched, turned to originate in an episode of LA Law. So there are problems, and you need to, as you said earlier, double check it and make sure that it's valid. So we kind of build in those checks as well. So we say, well, what are the key salient points here? Now go and double check those and verify and give me the source code for the website that you found that on, so that I can cite it in my attestation as to its validity. The second thing we find is that AI will tell you, here is your notice of motion or your affidavit of means, and when you examine it, you will find that it makes mathematical errors in particular, but it often will, refer to key exhibit number 8, which is where you have them over a barrel, because that's, absolute proof that you have a prima facie case, and there'll be no such exhibit, and or they won't include the exhibit. So there's a lot of safety checks that have to be done to check it out. But agentic AI is very, very, very powerful. It can do wonderful things, but as as Mr. Hinton points out, it can also be an existential threat to humanity, and that is why he resigned as the head of AI at Google. Not because he thought Google were doing anything wrong, but because he felt that it would lend more credibility to what he has to say if he were not employed by someone who might have a vested interest in what he supported.
Understood. Folks, last Thursday there was a very special question time. You know, the BBC politics program, Thursday nights. And what was special about it was aimed at youngsters and young people's issues. And AI came up on that. And some of the issues you just touched on, Ken, was referred to in that program. I highly recommend you watch last Thursday's question time if you haven't already seen it, because there's a bit in it about AI that was really interesting, folks. You may want to check that out. Well, there's a superb question in the chat from Callum. Callum, please verbalize yourself out in a moment, unless you'd like me to do that for you. But what we're going to do first is go to Malati. Forgive me if I've mispronounced your name. Can you take yourself off mute, Malati, and make your point? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. The Malati is correct. Thank you. My major issue was loading up big bundles, and that was the only issue. It was not able to read big bundles. How do you go around? Is there any way out for reading the big bundles?
So Malati's, thank you for the question. Great question. Malati's question is, how do you get around the challenge of loading big bundles into an AI platform? Is there a workaround? Any thoughts on that one, Ken? Thanks, Malati.
Simply put, what we do is we give them all to the agent, and we say, you break them down into palatable forms and make sure that the AIs can ingest these. The reason that we had to program the agent to do that was because we found that AI itself would say, oh, well, if you put them into a zip file and it's less than 100 megs, then we can unzip it on our end and read it, rather than you having to do each file one by one by one. But then it gets confused. It really does. And it comes up with a lot of gobbledygook. So we found that to be an ineffectual solution. The second thing we found was that it was pushing software on us, that if you buy this software, you can, it will amalgamate a bunch of documents into a big zip file for you, which we will definitely be able to interpret, but it's not. So again, checks and balances are the secret to doing it, and small files, lots of them.
Thank you, Ken. Great question. Great response as well. I'm going to read out Callum's question in the chat, then we're going to go to Colette. Okay, Callum asks, and I think this is a superb question, and I've never thought about this issue before. It just goes to show how naive I am. You don't know what you don't know, eh, folks? And by the way, we've got Ismail with us tonight, and Ismail runs a network within the RSA. I've got to know Ismail through that. Ismail's particularly hot on governance-related issues, and perhaps Ismail can chip into the conversation later. But Callum's question is, for Ken, are there not huge risks when uploading private documents or legal documents to an AI platform where this data could be scraped, stored, and used against you, potentially in mass surveillance and social rating systems, or even job applications? What a thoughtful question. Thanks, Callum. Thank you very much. Ken, anything to say to that one, sir?
It's the big question, isn't it? You know, if the service is free, then you're the product. The answer is, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, WhatsApp, for instance, markets itself as being end-to-end encrypted, but it's owned by Meta, whose business model is specifically to scrape data and sell it to advertisers. So you'd have to wonder, now that WhatsApp has started to allow advertising, albeit initially in very small ways, whether in fact that model may move. And we also need to be very careful about what we sign up to now in terms of allowing access to our private information, because that might come back to bite you on the bum in 15 years' time when it says, oh, well, sorry, when you first started using this service, you said that you were happy for us to access your email data. And that's all we did was access the emails that you sent to such and such a person that you shouldn't have been sending emails to. And you didn't want out there. And we thought it'd be fun to publish it. So you authorized us to do that. And technically you did. So it really is a nightmare issue, and that's why I and Geoffrey Hinton and just about anybody who really cares about the future of AI and the existential threat that it definitely poses to our species, advocates for immediate and very stringent legislation to protect us all.
Yeah.
The EU have made some. We have the EU Act now. The states have done nothing yet. China's not interested. So it's still the Wild West out there at the moment in terms of who's got the rights. One would hope that, as in the past, eventually the legislators catch up with reality and we get the kind of protection that we ultimately need. But then, there's a lot of people here who live in an environment where we're supposed to be protected from large corporations and people that take financial advantage, and that hasn't worked. So nothing is guaranteed, I'm afraid. But the one thing about AI is that if you do not tell it specifically to retain files, it doesn't do it because it doesn't have the bandwidth to do it yet, because once quantum computing comes online, which is not that far away, it then will. So for now, unless you specifically tell it you want it to retain files, it doesn't do it. But in the future, it will have the bandwidth to, and you want to be very careful then.
Incredible. That's an incredible topic. And I know I repeat myself, I literally have never even thought about that question. How naive am I? Deborah Sophia Magdalena. What a beautiful name. Deborah Sophia Magdalena puts a note in the chat. She says, excuse the pun on chat, she says, in ChatGPT, go to settings, data controls, and turn off the button that says, improve the model for everyone. This means that the programmers cannot view your data, or so they say. It's all quite smoke and mirrors, this, isn't it? It's all quite dramatic, actually. Scary stuff. It is both.
But it's also kind of clandestine when you think of it, because they don't say, may we have access to track what it is you do and research you and whatever. They say, help make ChatGPT great for everyone.
Yeah. It's sneaky stuff. There was, I'm trying to find the clip. There was an American senator quizzing a bank that was being made bankrupt or something. And we eventually got this person who ran the organization that was going bankrupt. He eventually, after lots of questions, got this guy to admit that although his company was making it possible for people to delete all the data off this company's platform, the small print that you never actually get to see actually says, even if you ask us to get rid of all your data, whilst we will acknowledge that we will do it, in actual fact, we won't actually do it. It was quite incredible. I'll try to find the clip. It was great to watch. And superb work by that American senator to get to the truth eventually. So you're right, it's all quite sneaky. Sneaky. Colette Isaacs isn't sneaky, but she is going to tell us what she's about to say. Colette.
Thanks, Andy. Ken, so inspired by what you had to say. For those of you who don't know me, which will be most of you, I run a tiny little charity that promotes independent advocacy for older people. So speaking up for people who can't speak up for themselves. So a lot of what you say is music to my ears. Can you imagine how powerful this will be in enabling older people to tackle some of the extraordinary bureaucracies that they're faced with at the moment? So I was really interested in what you consider to be the pipeline. You're obviously very digitally astute. You've done something very niche and very new with this agency thing. How do you see that filtering down so that use could be applied more broadly, more widely, and for somebody who certainly isn't a digital native, and what kind of cost implications or equipment or upskilling do you think would be required before they could get to that point where they could speak up for themselves the way that you've done?
I think with people who didn't grow up in the digital era with mobile phones and computers and that, the trick is an intermediary of some sort. Someone who can take their personal explanations and digitize them such that an AI can interpret them. We do already have many different voice recorders with digital translation facilities on board. So you could, for instance, get an elderly person and put them in front of a laptop which is running Word with Dictate turned on. And you could say, just tell the whole story from start to finish. Take as long as you like. Just sit in this room until you've finished, and include every little detail you can think of and just record it into that. And when it's finished, you would then have a transcript which can be put into one of our agentic agents, and we'll say, well, first thing we want is, we want this, all the nonsense taken out of this. We want to get to the core of the matter. What are the salient facts that might be relevant in law? Secondly, we would then ask them to provide any kind of documents they have. Now, a lot of people don't know how to scan in documents, all that kind of thing. They don't know how to forward an email, but they know how to use their phone. So you could say just whatever documents they have, and a lot of them prefer hard copy, just take a photograph of each document, and then we can digitally interpret those pictures and again translate to text such that it can go into one of the agentic AIs to go first to ask for a legal opinion from based on the latest QC case histories in this area, and secondly then to make a recommendation as to what the case should be, and thirdly provide us with the documents necessary to actually file it in court and to present for a hearing, hopefully on affidavit.
Really helpful, thank you. Very interesting.
Indeed, Colette, that was a great question and a lovely response, Ken. Thank you so much for being with us today. Apart from learning about AI, I'm also learning about quantum physics and quantum computing. Every day's a school day. Today's definitely one of those for me. There's some great stuff going on in the chat here. Deborah Sophia Magdalena says, why does this matter? She's talking about quantum effects, quantum computers. So I'll forgive my complete ignorance here, Ken. Quantum computing, so is this going to be like a whole new next generation thing?
Yeah, it's basic. I mean, if you think of the existing computers which use binary code, so you basically have an on and an off switch, and you know already from those yes and no answers, you know the amount of information we can disseminate, analyze, distribute around the world, turn into pictures, turn into movies, turn into Netflix, whatever. Imagine that you have a binary code system where each element of it is in quantum superposition, which means that it can be in 10 places at the same time, which means that your plus and minus, or your 0 and 1 binary code now have 10 different manifestations of themselves operating at exactly the same time. And you think of the exponential growth in the number that will give you in terms of the processing. You're looking at, to put it very much in layman's terms, take a computer that you have today, multiply its capacity by 1 million, and that's what a quantum computer will be able to do. Now, there are still some technical technological drawbacks with it, because right now they can only operate really at absolute zero, which is almost impossible to physically create, and therefore the only real quantum computers that are functioning are supercomputers at IBM and places like that. But there's an awful lot of people working very hard to be the next Bill Gates here.
Wow, this is such an interesting conversation. Folks, can we please show our appreciation to Ken Joyce? Ken, that was really helpful. So
Happy
helpful.
to help. Hope it was some help.
It certainly was.
Thanks.
The conversations opened up my mind to lots of stuff I didn't even know about. My goodness me. Every day's a school day. Thanks, Ken. That was great. We're going to go to Steve Connolly. If I talked about how highly I rate Steve Connolly and the work he's doing for TTF and our community, I'd be talking for the next 10, 20, 30 minutes. I won't do that. All I will do is say, Steve, I think you're absolutely fantastic. Your motivations are about as true and as honourable and as authentic and as caring and as giving as anyone I've ever met. Steve, thank you very much for taking time to be with us and for sharing some of the insights you're developing with and through your concept, support after financial exploitation. Steve Connolly, we thank you for being here. Let's show our appreciation to Steve. Over to you, Steve. Cheers.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Andy, and thanks very much, everyone, for taking your time to listen to what I've got to tell you. So what I want to do is take what Ken's delivering and equip what I call an army of citizen investigators. I want to empower people. So that's what I'm all about, is empowering you so that you can do this yourself with free tools. And so I'm going to upskill you, so I can take you where you don't feel very confident and get you to a situation where I love what you were saying about researching like lawyers and persisting like machines. And I kind of see that's where I'd like to get the citizen investigators. So Get Safe is get support after financial exploitation is it's a kind of semi-charity. I want to make it a charity, so it's all free. Because I'm talking to people who've been financially exploited to a very significant effect, the extent. So they've lost their total life savings. So I want to kind of equip them so they can then recover from that situation without having to shell out loads of money and try and get support that is unaffordable. So I want to level the playing fields. I want to make the Davids into Goliaths. And do that for free and do that quickly and do that straight away and start changing the conversation. So that's what Get Safe is about. I do something else in it as well, which is I help people get their life back, because often this exploitation has ruined their lives too. So I'm a life plan. I do the life plan as well. But this side of it, the recovery, is what I want to focus on today. I've done a little presentation, so I'm not as confident as Ken as without my slides. So I'm going to put slides up. You will see me in the little corner. If it's okay, I want to just share my screen. I think that'll be all right, will it, Andy?
Yeah, it should work fine. It's working so far.
Okay, so you can see something. That's good. That's good news. So if you can see a slide now, then that's that's good. Okay, so I want to talk to you about how I support citizen investigators, and that's you. And I want to support you and create with citizen investigators with machine minds, if you like, persisting like machines, researching like lawyers, and writing like the best writers ever. And that's what AI is. It's what it delivers. It doesn't deliver everything. There was a conversation in the Treasury with MPs that was published this morning about AI. They were having a debate about it, and all the negatives were coming out. And I'm seeing that, and what I'm seeing is a system that's really worried about AI. It is going to level the playing field, and that's what they don't want. That's what the system doesn't want. We have this like rigged system we talk about, and they seem to be trying to tell all the negatives about AI, but what they're doing is not protecting the consumer. What they're doing is protecting the status quo. When I see debates in Treasury like this morning that's been publicised, where they're only talking about the negatives AI, then I'm thinking we're not getting the true pitch. We're not getting a fair balance here, because there's huge positive things that AI do. It speeds up, it does things 10 times quicker than anyone could do it. It does things 10 times better than anyone can do it. And I think when I'm talking about, oh, but what about data? Aren't you worried that what you put on AI will be out in the universe there in 15 years' time? I tell the citizen investigators I work with, what do you really want back? What's most important here? You know, there's priorities here. The most important piece is I want my money back. I want to be back in the financial position I would have been in if that hadn't happened, if I hadn't been exploited to that extent. I said, yeah, I want that too. So what we can do is, there's going to be risk, but compared to what you want to do, you'd much rather have your total life savings back, wouldn't you? So let's do that. And I'll just show you how to do it. The support I give is free legal support. So it's not replacement for legal support. It's pre-legal support. It just helps people reclaim agency and transforms a grassroots resistance into something that's on a par with what the institutions and their deep pockets, which their deep pockets is funded by your money. That's why they've got deep pockets, you know, so it's not their money. But I've been asked to kind of make sure that from a legal perspective, we need to tick the boxes, cross the T's, dot the I's. And there is a recent High Court ruling this month on the misuse of AI in legal proceedings. So what I do is whenever I produce anything, I put caveats on it. Our tools are designed to support victims of financial crime by helping them organise evidence. Organise evidence into files. That's the key to you winning your case, is having a really organised file. Understanding your rights. What's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that. And communicate clearly. It's not a replacement for legal representation. This is pre-legal work. And if you do your work, you've got your case file, then litigators will do work for you on a no-win, no-fee basis. No problem. Because you have it, so it's all organised and all well thought through. And yeah, I'm going to get the legal support I need to take this the final step. I wanted to just get you there. And by the way, it could be settled before it goes to. I'm a chief executive of a company called Asset Recovery Network UK Limited. I worked on a case this morning, which is a £200 million fraud. I used AI to help me identify assets that this international criminal gang was hiding. And I managed to find £600,000 worth of assets so far in just a few hours work using AI. It really levels the playing field. It really helps. And so you might hear a lot of negative things about, oh, well, it's not, you know, it's open 15 years time, someone might remember what you said. But you're fighting a battle here, and I want you to win your battle today, and I want you to get your money back. So that's really where I come from. So yeah, it does have fabrications, does have hallucinations, verify the facts, use trusted legal resources. So it's a very powerful force for good when used transparently, ethically, and with human judgment. Transparency, the thing you started with, Andy, is the thing that I really love about sunlight is the best disinfectant. I think that's what AI is. It's sunlight that suddenly shone into the institutions, the system. We've just massive beams of sunlight. You can see everything clearly. There's no hiding. And that's why I think there's so much resistance. When the system fails the people can rise. You know, we have cases like the offshore pension scandal, where these 40,000 people have lost £10 billion over the last 10 years. And they've been ignored by MPs, ignored by FCA, ignored by FOS, ignored by the Serious Fraud Office, ignored by attorneys, ignored by just about everyone. I've even written a letter to the King and been ignored by the King because he's responsible for the attorneys. But anyway, you just get ignored by everyone. But do you know what? You just put your rant, emotional rant, into ChatGPT and just say this in a powerful, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve. Just give it your instruction, make that your prompt. Can you rewrite my rant into something that's professional and is going to get the impact I want? They come back with brilliant letters. And that's kind of, and I'll just show you how to do that. And you can do that with a free system. I use a £20 a month system. I think Ken, you use a £200 a month system. But anyway, so people I'm helping don't really have access to legal support, but when you've got your file to the state standard that you can get it to, you'll get the legal support you need to take it to that final place. I'll have a look at the questions. I think there's questions coming up, but I'll look at those in a moment. I'll just get through the points and then I'll come back to that if that's okay. So AI is a force multiplier. We've heard that. It sorts complex evidence, emails, PDFs, transcripts. And I did listen to my ChatGPT. It said, organize everything using Notion. So I use a system called Notion, which I'll talk about in a minute. And I also use Google Drive. The Google Drive is great because you can just give all your evidence file, which is about 1,000 pieces of evidence. You can just put it in OneDrive and just send one little link to your lawyer, or one little link to your MP, or one little link to your journalist, and they can see everything that you want them to see. You don't have to upload loads of documents. It's all really organized, and you can do that, and AI can tell you how to organize that, how to upload it, how to process it, and create your dossier of evidence. It detects deceptions and inconsistencies. So when you're getting fobbed off, it tells you, you load up, oh yeah, the attorney came back to me and said this, that, and the other. And it says, yeah, I can see that, and this is where they went wrong. And this is the letter you write back to tell them to stop messing you around. And they send you back in a nice professional thing, nice persuasive piece of communication. And it's also helps when you are emotional and you're putting trauma into communications. It kind of works and supports you in that process. Very sensitive to that, and it will take that piece out of what you're saying. So I built this Get Safe system. So I'll give you this for free. If anyone wants this, a little link for free. It's free. You don't have to pay to use it, and you just go in and you create your own evidence file, your own piece, and it is instructions on how to do it. You get a link, and it creates this evidence vault that you can just send the link to your journalist or your MP, and they can see the whole thing, or the police or whatever. Has this deception detection in it. It creates templates. You can calculate your redress. It's got financial calculations, but it guides you through the place. So, for example, if you write to your MP and they ignore you, it tells you how to do a follow-up email that they won't ignore, that they daren't. And if they try to ignore it, so I've been working with a few people who have been getting ignored from their MPs, and they are responding. Everyone responds now. There's people have been going for years trying to get someone to pay them attention and listen to them. This changes the game. This changes it, because you know the escalation routes, you know where to go next, you know the buttons to press to get them to respond to you. You need to know your call to action as well. It tells you exactly what to say to them. What I want you to do X, Y, and Z. It amplifies what you do. It doesn't replace it. And having your personal story is important in places. So we have that in places in the report, in the evidence file, but not everywhere. We don't write with emotion. So human and machine together is a justice. And what we want to do is help one another as well. So as I help people with the Get Safe, then people start helping one another. So I know some of the members of the Get Safe team are helping one another, or helping 20 other victims that they know are in the same situation as them. They'll start doing the letters and the support and telling them what to do next. So use AI to guide, not decide. It's not a legal advice thing. It's not your legal representation. It's pre-legal work. There are ways to keep your privacy. Like there's a few things, but it's not without its flaws. And I say, well, what's the better of two evils? Get complete recompense and justice, and have a few bits of information out there, or not. Because like I say, if you could try for years and years and just get nowhere, just doing it without AI. So doing things without AI is not kind of as easy. Yeah, so justice won't just happen. We must build it from the ground up. It's support from open source tools like AI will really help. You can join, collaborate with other people, and create a community of Davids that are fighting and battling. So that's really what we want to do, create that support. So I'll look at the questions now and just stop the share.
Steve, that was fantastic. Let's show our appreciation, first of all, Steve. That really was great. And I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. I don't know anybody who's more giving than Steve Connolly. And Steve, your willingness to give and share and facilitate the learning of others is wonderful. And you go about it in such a lovely way. I know several people in the TTF community who've been on your Road to Recovery program, and it's just been wonderful. Steve, it's fantastic to have you with us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So have you got any questions, or have we answered them all?
No, we'll share some thoughts now. There's some really interesting stuff in the chat. I'm learning what I didn't even know I didn't know. Brilliant stuff. Okay, comments and questions for Steve Connolly, folks. Please do raise your hands, either digitally or literally, if you prefer. Our next speaker is going to be Paul Bates. We'll go to Paul shortly. I'll tell you what, I've got one for you.
Mr. Birch has got one.
Where's Paul on my screen? Yeah, oh, there he is. Hi, Paul. Please. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't see Paul. Cheers. Go for it, Paul.
I'd just like to endorse everything that Steve has said. He and I met in the House of Parliament when you presented the summit to against HMRC.
Yeah.
And it's just been like a ray of light. I mean, as you well know, Andy, technology and I are not the best and the easiest of bedmates. But Ian, even for a total technophobe like me, has actually now persuaded me that if you follow basic guidelines, AI can open up all sorts of avenues that make life so much easier. So if anybody's got any doubts, then and if they are able to join one of Steve's programs, then please do so. I think you'll find it very, very interesting and useful.
Good stuff, Paul. Thank you very much. I'm going to invite anybody else that would like to come in with any comments or questions. Trevor, you left me a lovely voice message the other day, which I listened to. I think you indicated in that voice message you've been using AI to get under the bonnet in terms of some human rights stuff. Can you tell us all a bit about that, please, Trevor, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So we've got the Opmedo files, and we've got.
Tell everybody, please, what Opmedo is. Thanks.
So Opmedo is a linked police report, and it shows that Nick Johns of Thames Valley covered up the Lloyds RBS banking frauds in Avon, Somerset, in collusion with Sue Mount Stevens, Mark Shelford, and several of the others there. So we did a lot of campaigning, but it got closed down. We understand that from Treasury, there was a KC law professor called in to close down the Opmedo, and we've got further info and so on. But what I've been doing, Andy, I use Perplexity. I don't like ChatGPT. I find Perplexity goes a little bit deeper, and we've just upgraded to the Pro version. And what I did the other week, I took the impact statements we've got, which is those. And
so these are statements from people who are describing how what's happened to them has impacted them.
Yeah. So we had the Opmedo, which was originally 11 cases, and the original Opmedo was 33 pages. It was a pre-final draft. People like Joan and so on know about it, and it appeared through my door. So I guess there was a good police person out there that sent it. Wow. And although it was Thames Valley, like I said, we've got to endorse Anthony. He's 100% good guy. But with the Opmedo, there are 11 cases in it, and I thought we can't just do 11, so we expanded it, and it went up to 96 cases. which there was an awful lot of help from a lot of people, Martin Wickens and so on. We never had the ability to put those cases through an AI. My prior life was INEA, which was the Independent Network of Estate Agents, and it was a pretty big cross-relational database that I designed the look of in Windows Paint, which used to make the IT guys laugh, but they put the technical bit at the back. But it gave me an understanding of relational database. We were thinking a few years ago, it would be good if you could put all this into a big relational database and then put search words in it and so on. And you could have done that, but there was a big cost at the time. But I always ask for victims, one for a case summary, what happened, you know, leading up to the train crash, what happened, and so on, what happened at the train crash. And then I say, can you support that with evidence? You know, get a DSAR, and you'll find for every 1,000 pages or so, there's a gold nugget in there. And it takes, you know, my DSAR took me 3 months, me and Tracy, 3-4 days a week, just going through it. But we found a lot, and it kept the court case going quite a while. So I look at case summary and then the support evidence, because you're looking for the mens rea, the actus rea, the Ivy test, which is a 2-part test, and then you're going on to another part, which is the evidential, and then the public interest. But additionally, what I do, I say to people, you know, these frauds are caused by bankers and by lawyers and barristers and bench judges. We know there's bench judges. But then what I say, can we also then have your impact statement? What happens after the train crash? You know, how does it affect you? How does it affect the family? So we ask people, and it's probably a lot harder to do than your case summary. And we say, what happened? And then I say, can you support it with medical records and so on? And I think there's probably got to be a really interesting thing that AI can do, where you'll get a rival. However it happens. And then if there'll probably be a second line, a correlation, and you'll find as they get hit, maybe their health gets hit, there's a heart attack or that sort of thing. So that's something I want to look at more. But what I did the other day, or the other week, I spent ages scanning in with my little scanner. The big beast broke, and I scanned in 70 impact statements, and there's a lot of correlations in them. And then what I did, when I got them, I said, can you now create a table? And I want to look at the mens rea, the actus rea, the Ivy test. I want to look at the evidential. I want to look at the public interest and apply, like with the black cab rapist and the public interest. I want to look at the police failure, you know, and all this sort of thing. And then what I did, I created a table, which I sent to you, Andy. And I then applied that. My case now, I've exhausted the UK. So my case now, we're going to the European Court of Human Rights. And over here, I mean, I've had judges that I've confronted and they've run out the room and that sort of thing, which is 25th of October. But what I did with these impact statements, I created the tables and I said, can you now look at the European Court of Human Rights? And can you look at similar cases where people have had this happen, where there's been aggressive banking, there's been unfair terms in consumer contracts, there's been bait and switch, there's been that sort of thing. And can you show me cases that mirror with these and start to create a wireframe? And what I'm looking to do is to, with all this info, there's about 10, 12 cases, which I sent over to you, Andy. What I'm looking to do is then bring that back and then use the AI wireframe to then bolt bits of my case. And so far, we're finding ECHR Article 1, Protocol 1, which is protection of property. You've got ECHR 3, which is you shouldn't go through torture, be it physical or mental. That ties in with Section 134, the Criminal Justice Act 1988, where a lot of these ministers or police that knew what was happening and have allowed it, you've got the misconduct in public office, you've got malfeasance, nonfeasance, misfeasance. So I see it, you've got 3 crime silos. You've got the fraud, the bribery, the false instruments, etc. You've got silo 2, which is the misconduct in public office. These public officers, the regulators, the people sitting in the Bank of England or person, the police, the ministers. You know, they're not all bad ministers, but there's a lot of very senior cabinet ones. And when things go to court and you put in evidence such as Anthony Stansfield's, the judges should be stopping the court case, and on national security and public interest, they should be going to the Attorney General and the Home Secretary, and they're not. They're just rubber stamping the evictions. So I'm glad I'm out of this British sewer now, and I'm glad I'm going to the EU. But what putting all these impact statements together has done has created a database table that I can then go into the EU, and I found 10, 12 really good cases that mirror mine, that mirrors many, many others, and they've won. And there's a process in the EU where if you get the paperwork right, which I will use AI on the application again, as I've used it many, many a time before, and that will help me build my case, which will then go off to the EU in about 3 weeks' time. And then hopefully within 3 months, they're right and say you need a meeting with government. And, you know, the supplementary support will be a lot of these other bits. Yeah. What I've just started doing, Andy, I was up till just gone 3 o'clock last night. And in the week, I had a night till gone 4 o'clock because I'm excited by the AI.
Wow.
And I've been scanning in. I've been scanning in the Op Meadow. Now, last week, Friday and Saturday, I thought, great, we've got a lot of this on PDF, but a lot of it was scanned in documents. And when I put the PDF into PDF 24, I thought I can convert it to OCR, which is text recognition. And the files were too big, so I split the files to smaller PDFs below 25 megabytes, and then I converted each one to OCR. And it still wouldn't do it. So I've got to page by page scan these in. But what it's doing, it means I will scan in 40 pages or 10 pages, and I'll look at that section. And on some of those documents, police have written notes, and the OCR wouldn't pick that up. But a lot of those notes, like exclude UK Acorn, we know from the Op Meadow files that why the police don't want UK Acorn in, because there are bits that they should have done. So I suppose what I'm saying is the Op Meadow files, there's 96 cases in there, and there's probably about 75 of those are fraud and bribery. But I'm getting really excited. When we were putting the files in Friday and Saturday, I would put new files in, and it kept coming up with a block. And what it was, where some of the scans were not brilliant, they were sitting there waiting to go in the system. And the new files that I was adding were blocking, and they weren't getting in. So I asked AI, the Perplexity, what's wrong? And it said, you know, you need to remove some of these and redo them. But
Trevor,
now I've done that. Sorry.
We'll hold it there. This is absolutely fascinating stuff. And may I make a quick comment before we jump back to Steve? Hearing the enthusiasm in your voice for what you're doing is absolutely brilliant. Okay, I've heard Tony Lawler, who's with us tonight, with the same kind of enthusiasm about AI. It's almost like a new paradigm has opened up for the possibilities. Seamus May, who's also here tonight, I've heard Seamus speaking in the same enthusiastic way. For all
Andy, so I mean, today I've had 2 guys with me, and there's a dispute. And I know the law firm because they've dealt with a probate that I've been involved with. Yeah. And I've used AI to really hammer at them and quote the law at them. And the 2 guys today are going up against these, and we've put in documents in, and knowing enough about the law, we can see a way of spinning it round. A month ago, I had a lady that saw some of the eviction videos where we've stopped the evictions,
Trevor, forgive me. I need to cut in there. I'm so sorry. We need time-wise. I need to move back to Steve. So if you we'll come back to you as soon as we can once we've gone through Steve and Paul. Okay? But thank you. Your input's been absolutely first class, as it so often is. Thank you, Trevor. Steve, any final points from yourself before we go to Paul Bates?
Yeah, I just shared a couple of articles. I kind of write a lot of LinkedIn posts, social media posts, and there's a couple that I put on there that might be of interest. But one is about the UK Treasury Committee panel of academic experts that met this morning and talked about AI. A couple of professors, I think we've talked about professors on this call from Cambridge, and it's been in the chat as well. But they were just saying, oh, it's going to be a slow motion flash crash, is the way they described it. But what they didn't tell you is the other side of the story. So I just want to say what the other side of the story is.
Please do.
AI offers the greatest opportunity we've ever had to mitigate conduct risk in financial services. Wow. Period.
Wow.
He doesn't imagine it. Transparency. It gives us transparency, enforces ethical standards, shines a light into the dark corners of a system that has long operated with impunity. So that was my kind of parting message.
This is fantastic. It's like if sunlight is the best disinfectant. Sunlight turbocharged with AI is even more powerful. There is hope, folks. There is hope, folks. Steve Connie, thank you. Appreciation.
Andy, could I just say one thing? Tony
Yes,
Lawler here.
just quickly though, Tony, please. Thank you very much. Please.
Yeah, just to take up on what's been said there. That is absolutely true. I'm working very closely with Mark Bannister, and we're working on something that's very, very, very exciting. Now, the last point that was made there by Steve, I would just ask Steve, is he aware of Bayesian analysis, where evidence can be taken and tested mathematically to give statistical evidence as to the veracity of this evidence. I've done it in my own case, and whereas they're all telling me I was wrong, the Bayesian analysis comes back and gives me 99.99% statistical analysis of 20 pieces of evidence that confirms that I was right. And that's all done with the assistance of AI.
Powerful stuff. We'll come back to that. Can you please put that phrase in the chat? I've got no idea how you spell Bayesian analysis, and I'd love to look it up. Thank you very much again, Steve Conley. We're going to go to Paul Bates, who's somewhere in Canada, Toronto, I think. Paul, please take a moment to introduce yourself and your practice and give us a legal professional's view on AI, because it must be very interesting to see this from your perspective as a barrister. Over to you, Paul. Thank you. And by the way, folks, Paul is a wonderful supporter of TTF. We're very pleased to be able to liaise with Paul from time to time, and he helps on all kinds of issues. Paul Bates, over to you, sir, for a few minutes on your thoughts on this powerful topic. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'm well aware of developments in AI, and many of them have been so well expressed by Steve and our other speakers this evening, and I wholly endorse their views, which I encapsulate in AI being a means to level the playing field of conflict and litigation between the very well-resourced financial institutions and others who are so frequently on the opposite side, and consumers, by assisting with document review, evidence management, and many other functions that are essential in litigation. I'm hoping AI tools will be available to detect misconduct in the marketplace early on as well. So everything that's been said is so outstanding. But having said that, I have a couple of cautions to express to you about AI. The main one is that it's a nascent technology, so it has flaws. And someone mentioned the disapprobation expressed by a UK court recently, I think the last 2 weeks ago, in relation to a barrister who failed to cite proper jurisprudence because they relied on an AI program to develop a legal argument. And there's been an example of that in Canada recently. And so in all the barristery I do, I always tell the firms I work with that while they might be interested in what AI says is the legal argument, they can never rely on it to file it in a court. They must know the law, review the jurisprudence or legislation, and present it with human consciousness as accurate and informative to the court. So there's problems with what are called hallucinations. Secondly, the judiciary that you appear to persuade in the UK and Canada are technophobes. It's not common today. It's becoming common, but was not common until recently, for that a judge would appear in court with a laptop. 40 years ago when I started practicing, they always came in with a paper book and a pen. So today it's more than half, but not all appear in court with a laptop. So there's a mistrust or distrust of AI. So in the courtroom, AI should be kept in the background. It should not be, there will never be a voice by AI machinery that will persuade a court. That is my personal view. And I have an amusing anecdote of sitting about 10 years ago on a conference in the UK with the senior judge of the commercial list in the UK, Justice Blair. And we were chatting about means of persuasion. And I wish I could emulate his wit. But he said, I don't like it when you barristers talk on and read forever. Just tell me the point. I'll get it. Just tell it to me straight. You know, they don't like data volume. The legal mind is oriented to the essential point and the conclusion coming first. So I see AI. I recently saw it in the Yukon in a case. It was an entertainment for me. But I would never agree to submit it to the court or let it guide the judgment. It must be the human factors in the courtroom are the key, in my view, usually, and that has to remain in focus. That's my comment, Andy.
Paul, thank you so much. There seems to be universal agreement. AI is an excellent augmentation, but it's not a replacement. We need to use AI as a tool, as a utility, as a research portal, as a sounding board, and all these other things that have been spoken about. But it's not the be all and end all. But let's make damn good use of it, especially where it helps to level the playing field in terms of resource. Thank you, Paul, very, very much indeed. Words of wise caution there. Folks, we're gonna open it up here. I'd love to hear from Seamus May. I always love having Seamus with us on calls because it gives me an excuse to mention an absolutely superb TED talk that Seamus did some time ago about corruption and kleptocracy. I'll find a link to it and I'll put it in the chat. Please do watch it, folks. Meanwhile, Seamus, you're quite enthusiastic about AI. What would you like to tell us about AI? Thank you.
Well, personally, I could endorse everyone tonight. Absolutely, this is a wonderful platform. Just at the moment, the number of people that are on. I'm using AI now quite a while. Excited isn't the word I could use. I can't even make up a word for what AI is doing for me. What I did with my AI, I fed in a lot of information about myself, like going back 40 years and the business and all the different backgrounds to what I'm doing. And it knows me very well. And I also have given it an awful lot of prompts. So I have it trained up pretty well, and I'm only in the early stages still, but definitely it is a guide. I would never use it as the be all and end all. I would check everything, and it's my assistant, it's not my master, and I think it should nobody should ever let it be their master. If they send in a mistake into court or anywhere else, it's my fault. It's not AI's fault because I didn't check what it gave me. So I'm fighting, as some people know, a monstrous battle here in the courts in Ireland for just under 30 years now. And all the AIs in the world won't, well, firstly, lawyers in Ireland now, nobody will touch this biggest company in Ireland, CRH. Nobody will represent you against it. You have all the regulators, you have the politicians, the political parties, and the judiciary all basically, I suppose, working under the principle of too big to fail. So, you know, no matter how good my work is, and I'm trying to figure out the way forward, we're still up against a judicial system here in Ireland that is completely conflicted and is a mere puppet of government. And that's a very strong thing to say, but I know it's a little bit moving away from AI, but I don't know how AI or anybody is going to sort that particular issue out for me when you're shut off from media and everybody else. But look, go back to AI, bring it. Gone.
Seamus, thank you very much indeed. I think you'll remember the comment we made in our Ireland Matters meeting a few weeks ago about how AI put a spring in your step. And as I indicated earlier, it's done the same thing for Tony Lawler and for many, many other people. People who had no hope, that felt like they had no hope, have found a way forward because AI is helping them to cut through all the noise and get to the vital bits of information that they need. Wonderful stuff, folks. We're going to be wrapping up in a couple of minutes, so time to check in. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share before we do bring tonight's conversation to a close? But by the way, this won't be the last conversation about AI and how we're harnessing it for justice. There'll be others will do a series of these. Yes, please, Tony Lawler, back to you, sir. Thank you.
Just one thing, Andy. Like my case is involved with Bank of Ireland and a tracker issue. And the Bayesian analysis that I was talking to you about there recently, that's a model that the bank used to determine in-scope counts. Now, the Central Bank of Ireland used this Bayesian analysis to determine the depth of the wrongdoing and the blackguarding that went on within the banks with regards to the tracker mortgage. Now, I applied the very exact same theory I applied to my own case, to my own set of circumstances, and it came back, statistical analysis came back, it was 99.99% a tracker, but yet the central bank tell me it's not. Now, the central bank used this same analysis to determine 40 other thousand or 45 other thousand tracker mortgages. So they're selective in the way they apply it. But this is going to come back and haunt them. Mark my words, this is going to come back and haunt them. But everybody, when they're looking at AI, I would suggest to Seamus, he has 30 years of evidence and 30 years of been let down. He should expose all that evidence to a Bayesian analysis. They all use it. Every single one of them used.
Thank you very much, Tony. Let's talk about Bayesian analysis at tomorrow's Ireland Matters meeting.
Okay, Andy. Yeah.
Please do attend it, Tony. Seamus, if you can, please do attend it as well. Thank you. Trevor's raised his hand. We'll go to Trevor, then we'll wrap up. Trevor, thank you.
Thanks, Andy. I was going to say, I get a lot of people that see the eviction stop videos that we do and so on. I mean, there was one last year. I got arrested and put in their cell overnight. Essex police have now dropped all that. I used AI quite a bit and the police lawyer that I know, and we're now going after the police on that. But a couple of the ladies that come through in the last couple of months, I say to all these victims that want help, can you help yourself? Can you go through your documents? Can you scan them? And can you get them across? And if they can invest the time in doing that, I will throw it into the AI that I use and then use different formulas, the mens rea, the actus rea, etc., etc. But we had one a month ago, and it was a bank. I won't say which one. And this lady phoned up in tears. She'd been an executive lady, and she said they're coming to repossess me Wednesday next week. Can you help? And I guess it was the Wednesday or the Thursday. And I said, have you got some documents? Have you got key documents? She said, yes, I've got some really damning ones. And I said, well, I won't do the tiers and that sort of thing. I said, but can you scan them in? She got them over to me within 3 days. We played with the data. I run the scenarios. I run the court. Once I get the data in, I then put the court order or whatever. And that will then set you off with the CPR and so on, what you need to do to start defending it.
What's
It will then
CPR?
civil procedure rules of the court. So once you know what the court order is, or the hearing, or the case management, or so on, once you've got the evidence, the key evidence in there, and then you put the court document will say this is what is intending on happening. It's a case management, it's a repossession hearing. You'll then start digging into the CPR and the prima facie evidence you've got, and then you'll say, right, we now want to go on the attack. Now on that one, she'd had a sale on her property. It was an Oast house, and they said, you know, your chain's broken down, we're going to take your property. And I said, well, we need to buy time. So I said to the AI, with all that we've got, what is half a dozen really good questions to fire back? So we did that, and she sent an email and said, could we have an answer by 5 p.m? And the answer was, we haven't got long enough. We need to come back to you this another day. So I thought, well, that's good. It was the bank holiday, and I said, well, what we're now going to do is the court papers. We're going to get it in anyway to go for a stay. So you need to get it in on the Tuesday, and they were due to come on the Wednesday. So she got the paperwork in, and then on the Tuesday, the bank stopped the repo and said, we're going to hold it for a month. And I said, they're not doing that for you. They're doing that for them. She said, do I now send them the court paperwork? I said, no, you leave it till Friday at 4 o'clock. We call it a Friday letter. But they've now pulled right back. We've also, that poor lady a few weeks before, she'd been up on a bridge. So, you know, we managed to stop that. They now put a different team on it. And hopefully she's now got buyers in the chain again. And hopefully that will go through. But it means that she's in control, and hopefully rather than big fees, she would take the $250,000 equity in it. So I think, as well as whatever people use AI for, if you put enough info in and you use it right, it's a brilliant strategy tool as well, working out how you move forward.
Wow. That's
There you
really,
go.
really interesting, Trevor. Thank you all so much for sharing. I want to just jump back to Steve Conley to see if Steve's got any final comments before we wrap up tonight's conversation. Mr. Steve Conley. Thanks,
Yeah,
Trevor.
just picking up on what Trevor said there, the strategy tool. So when you're stuck and you don't know where to go next, and often I'm talking to people who are stuck and don't know where to go next, you got an MP. So we've got someone having their house repossessed by the 8th of August, and MP is just spinning yarns and not doing anything. We want the MP to write to the bank. It tells you strategies how to do that, how to get them. It says, so I did the email this morning, it was saying, yeah, copying other MPs, copying press into even though they've cooperated and everything, you know, just keep the heat on them. And that's what we're doing. It's strategies. So it's not only can it write your letters for you, not only can it organize your evidence dossiers for you in a format that just will be a delight for any litigator to look at. Not only will it do that, and, you know, make you into a Goliath so that you can take on the Goliaths. It's not going to fight the fight for you. You're going to do that yourself, but it's going to give you all the ammunition and guns and everything for that. But it's going to give you a strategy of how to defeat the Goliath that stood in front of you, and give you many, many different options of how to do that. And it's just unbeatable. They don't, if they're not using AI back, they've got no chance. So yeah, that's what it's just amazing. You know, I'm delighted. I've been working with AI since it came out, I think, and I'm still delighted every single day. I work with it and surprised.
Steve uses AI in his coaching program. I know that because I'm one of the beneficiaries of Steve's life planning work. It's absolutely superb, and it just started to freak my mind. It started to blow my mind what he was able to do with it in a kind of life planning context. It was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, for those that want to know, the recording of tonight's session, if you miss bits, etc., or if you want to raise awareness of it on social media, should be out on Thursday. You should have a link to it in Thursday's Transparency Times. Trevor Meelan, and then we'll wrap up. Trevor, thank you.
Quick one, where I'm running mass cases through one thread now, and I'm doing this table in the AI. One of the things I'm seeing happening is everybody's case is a jigsaw. Everybody has 20% of their case, or they have 80% of their case. Very few people have got 100% of their case. And the other place I see AI happening is by bringing lots of data into a singular place, and the gaps that you've got missing may be found in other people's cases. So you may find there's LPA receivers, you may find there's bank managers, but there may be other people in those little groups of people doing this to us that are, their names appear in other cases. So I think it's a cross-relational database with the logic of the AI. I think the AI is going to be like a ferret, and it's going to root out a lot of these hidden people that are now in retirement or in their 70s and 80s that have actually done a lot of bad, and their names are going to come up maybe on other people's files that connect with your case.
Trevor, thank you very, very much. I've just had a quick thought. I'm going to do something a little bit creative. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write us a poem about the strengths and weaknesses of AI. I've only just thought of this, so I've got no idea what it's going to come up with. Write a short poem about the strength and weaknesses of AI. Write a short poem about the strength and weaknesses of AI. Okay. What's it going to say? Sure. Here's a poem. AI, a double-edged mind. It learns with speed, recalls with grace. It scours the world, it finds its place. Patterns clear when none appear. A tireless mind that knows no fear. Yet nuance slips through circuits cold. Empathy is bought, not told. Context fades in logic's light, and wisdom stays a human right. So wield it well with heart and care, for strength and flaw are always there. Absolutely brilliant. I enjoyed that. Good night, everyone. Thanks to our speakers, Steve Conley, Ken Joyce, Paul Bates, Trevor Meelan chipping in, Seamus chipping in, Tony's chipping in, everyone who's chipped in. Thanks all very much indeed. I'm going to read that out again. I quite enjoyed that. I'm going to read it again. AI, a double-edged mind. It learns with speed, recalls with grace. It scours the world, it finds its place. Patterns clear when none appear. A tireless mind that knows no fear. Yet nuance slips through circuits cold. Empathy is bought, not told. Context fades in logic's light, and wisdom stays a human right. So wield it well with heart and care. For strength and flaw are always there. I think that's lovely.
You're a poet, Andy. You're a poet, and you don't know it. You speak and rhyme all the time.
Good on you. Thanks all. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. See you later.